Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Fox, a member of the Davidson College class of 1993, and I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Board of Trustees. Today has been an extraordinary day already, as we have celebrated this morning the Martin Institute for Public Good and the many generous gifts that have established the Institute and its 5 program areas. The intent of the Martin Institute is to develop effective, ethical citizens and leaders who build community and solve important problems in our society and our world. And so it is with enormous pleasure for me to introduce this evening's program, a conversation among 5 Davidson presidents who have led and served our college over the past 5 decades. To paraphrase an old saying, a Davidson president needs no introduction. So, with that in mind, please join me in showing our appreciation for our presidents, past and present, John Kuykendall, Bobby Vagt, Tom Ross, Carol Quillen, and Doug Hicks.
Thank you, Anthony. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is such an honor for me to get to be on this stage with John, Carol, Bobby, and Tom. I have so much respect for each of you, and I've learned from each of you. I appreciate your counsel and your friendship. One of you said to me you'd answer any question I had for you, but that you wouldn't have any questions or advice for me unsolicited. And so that's been true of all 4 of you, so I appreciate that as well. And I know you're always there. Although this, I think, is the second time that we've been in the same room together. You all were gracious enough to be present for my inauguration, but we didn't actually get to talk about stuff. So here we go. I thought I'd just jump right in, John, and ask you, since you started at Davidson 70 years ago.
Yeah.
You were here in the 50s as a student. You were president in the 80s and 90s, and a brief interim after that. And you've been a member of this community up to the present. And I just wonder if you could reflect on Davidson's values, how you've seen them change over time or be consistent over time. And I do hope you'll talk about the honor code in particular, since you, as a student, were a leader in creating an independent honor council separate from the Student Government Association. So you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to take my 30 seconds to say thanks to all of you all for this wonderful day. This morning, as we were breaking up from the convocation, Missy said to me, all those things they're going to do are things you thought you wanted to do. And I'm glad we're getting them done now. It's just great. I did come to Davidson as a freshman in the fall of 1955. At that time, there were about 850 students here, all male, all white, almost all from the South. And it was a fairly cloistered situation because we were, at that time, really 20 miles from Charlotte, literally. It was a little village community here, and the town of Davidson existed for the college and vice versa. So it was a very good place to be. There was a slogan in the dean's office about a decade before I came which said, a safe place to send your son. Not everybody found that to be true, but I really am here tonight as kind of representative of the relic of Davidson past, but I also have been very happy to follow the progress of this institution for most of those 70 years since. Doug asked about the honor system. The honor system had existed at Davidson for a long time before I got here. We once tried to trace it back, and I think some students here have done a better job than we did, but somewhere around the turn of the century, the faculty abdicated any responsibility for honor violations and gave it over to the students. And when I came to Davidson, there was a student council, SGA, with about 15 members, and they also functioned as the honor court. And in many instances, there was a kind of a conflict there between the political side and the judicial side. So when I became a senior, well, when I ran for office as SGA president, I had one of my platforms was we're going to separate these two things. And After the election, I had a magnificent mandate of 6 votes as president of student government. I asked some of my brightest and best friends who are on the student council to draft a program for separating the 2 entities and starting an honor court for the first time. Well, the rest of that's history. It's happened, and it's happened very well, I think. And I was talking with a current student just Tuesday about the Honor Council and her perception of what was going on and how serious an enterprise it was, which it was for us then and which it continues to be today. When I think about the honor code at Davidson, I've tried to sort out in my mind very quickly 3 different ways that you could have an honor code. You could have it as a matter of chivalry, kind of noblesse oblige, this is what we do because we're gentlemen and that sort of thing. It also could have something to do with discipline if it were a military academy. But at Davidson, it's got a very distinctive root because it's rooted in the founders of the college and the Reformed tradition and that part of our Reformed theology which says that there is room for growth and development as those, through the grace of God, to become better people that we are. And one of the things I've always felt about Davidson is Davidson means to get better, which is a real positive in my mind for getting things done. Now, the Honor Council today has absolutely different responsibilities than we had. I remember when I was president, we had a real conflict over whether or not spell check was going to be something that the Honor Council could undertake. And now we face AI and all those problems, or as the Secretary of Education says, we face A1 and all those problems. But I do think that it's so much a core of what Davidson is all about. And as James Russell Lowell once wrote, new occasions teach new duties. And the Honor Council will discover ways to be responsible in the new environment that we have with this brave new world of artificial intelligence and all the rest. Talk too long. 30 seconds.
Perfect. Perfect, John, perfect. Carol, you have been a leader at Rice. You had a distinguished career of over a decade of dynamic leadership at Davidson, and you're now a board member at another fine institution in Princeton, New Jersey. I won't mention the name, but it's in Princeton. What do you see as special about Davidson, and whether it connects to the honor code or other aspects? What strikes you?
Well, so much special about Davidson. First of all, I want to thank you, Doug, for having us all here. It's so great to see everyone and to be back on campus. I'm so grateful for every opportunity I have to be back here. And, I came to Davidson, really the board and everyone involved in that took a huge leap of faith. I wasn't from here. I didn't go here. I took that responsibility really seriously and recognized the kind of risk that the board was taking in picking someone like me to be president here. And when I came to Davidson, I thought, well, the students will be similar, great, smart, brilliant students. It's a privilege to be around every day. But I'm sure this environment will be different from any that I've ever been in. And I'm struck, Anthony mentioned the statement of purpose. And the primary purpose of Davidson, but really the entire statement of purpose, grounded me as I sought to learn what made Davidson different and a unique place. So if you just think about those words, lots of schools have, mission statements and longer, elaborate plans. Davidson's primary purpose is to assist students in developing humane instincts and disciplined and creative minds for lives of leadership and service. So if you take that to heart as someone new to the community, you understand the purpose of the place for students: humane instincts, discipline, creativity, leadership, and service. And to me, that statement helped me then learn all of the wonderful things about Davidson that make it different from other exceptional institutions across the country. So for me, the whole time I was here, that statement was a North Star. There are other great phrases in the statement of purpose. the idea of pursuing truth with all your faculties in every possible way, and the quest for truth as being at the heart of an intellectual and educational community. Davidson takes that really seriously. The idea that we are grounded in a tradition that asks us to be attentive to the presence of God around us, attentive to God's grace, attentive. And that tradition, I think, which I understood partly through my own Quaker education, that tradition, I think, helps Davidson build a community of trust. The Honor Code is about much more than not cheating. The Honor Code is about building a community where people can genuinely and expect to be able to trust each other. And in a learning community where in class we're asking students to take huge risks, question your assumptions, present new ideas, speak when you're not sure, find new avenues of inquiry. We're asking people to take huge intellectual risks. That's why we're here in this educational community. You gotta have trust. And the Honor Code creates that kind of foundation for trust. So when I think about what makes Davidson different, I rely heavily on that primary purpose statement, on other parts of the statement of purpose that suggest how this Davidson community was formed. And then, as John said, this expectation that we are always striving to live up to these aspirational values and that we have more work to do. It's not done. So this idea of an ongoing project where we're not sitting around saying, hey, we're so great, we're actually trying to live up to these high ideals that we've set for ourselves and for the institution. And that made, for me, my time at Davidson an extraordinary, wholly undeserved and unearned gift, which I really cherish.
Thank you. And that you're talking about attention or being attentive to God's presence, to the other, to ideas, and then that idea of being attentive to every person as equal in dignity. That's been a phrase we've used a lot, building on the work you did with Anthony, for instance, on the Race and Slavery Commission, and in so many other ways as we've worked on the Institute for Public Good as well. So thanks. Bobby, you are famous around here.
Oh, dear.
We talk, well, I'm not talking about water slides or anything else. I'm sorry, that's on one of the shelves. The Davidson Trust was a game-changing moment for Davidson in 2007 when you took a practice of trying to be need blind and meeting 100% of need and adding to that and going out in faith and trust that there would be no loans in the financial aid package. That has changed the game for Davidson. And we put $81 million into financial aid this year, and next year it'll be at least $85 million. And it's important for affordability and accessibility. How did you think about the values and the value of Davidson's education back then to have the trust to move forward, the economic value versus the ethical values of the college? How did that happen?
I'm sitting here and I'm going to tell the story, but the real heroes of this story are the trustees. The fact of the matter is it came up when it became clear that students were carrying more and more debt when they left. There were students who felt they couldn't come to Davidson because of the cost. And so it originally came up, can we reduce how much debt they leave with? This topic came up, but it was all about who we were as an institution. It was, we are Davidson. If we are all the things that both Carol and John have talked about, how can we sit here and not try to make it as possible, just make it perfectly possible for any student wants to go to attend. And so the conversation grew up around that. And so we limited debt and took little steps. And then we got serious about the need to eliminate it altogether. And that's when the second issue came up, which is, guess what? This costs money. And can we afford it? And I don't think we can afford it. And so there was a constant, over a course of a couple of years, there were, at every trustee meeting, there were these conversations. But the fact of the matter is, no one ever poo-pooed the first thing. No one ever said, this is who we are and this is what we need to do. We had to screw up our courage to be able to say, it's going to be a risk, but we look at our alumni body and what they have supported in the past, and we believe in them. And I will tell you, on that day when it was voted, and I'm going to get a lump in my throat, they voted, it was unanimous, and there were 42 trustees there, and there was not one dry eye in the place. It was the right thing to do, and this Board of Trustees took a courageous step, so the credit all goes to them.
Thank you.
Well, I'm here to thank you on behalf of all the students who've been here and graduated since then. It really has been a key moment, just as the honor code is, and just as our attentiveness to every student and their dignity. This attention to access and affordability is vital to who we are, and appreciate that you did it. I often say, back in 2007, I think they did it on faith and some Band-Aids to figure out, they trusted they could get it done, and now we're in a stronger position. It's a huge commitment for the college, and that we've seen the difference over these 19 years. Yeah. Tom, you not only served as president at Davidson, you've served in a couple of public roles as a judge, as a university administrator. I just wonder if you could reflect on how leading from values was similar for you as president as it has been in directly public service roles.
Well, I want to join in thanking you for this night and for this day. I have spent a lot of my life in public service, and sitting out in the audience today and listening to the creation of this new Martin Institute is as exciting as anything else we've talked about, in my view, for this college. And I think it can be one more thing that sets us apart from everybody, because it is who we are in many ways, that we believe in service, we believe in a commitment to each other and to humane instincts and the ability to talk with one another without and disagree without yelling and screaming and being divisive. And so this institute is going to be so valuable to this school. I just am very thankful to you and to the Martin family and all the other donors for it, because it's going to be a game changer for sure. It is Davidson. I came in 1968 as a student. Let's be clear that I was probably one of the last ones they admitted. Probably the last one, maybe, I don't know. But it was a place where, I felt a little bit out of place, to be honest, academically, socially, everything else. And so I did not do well to begin with. And a faculty member, I think, saw a little bit of potential in me and changed my life forever. Speaking of lumps. So, and then, when I'm here as president, I come with the Davidson Trust having just passed. Our best estimate was it was going to take $70 to $100 million of endowment. And we're spending $80 million a year. Yeah. So we had a little bit of an underestimate. But, it clearly was the right thing. I was fortunate to be part of the Board of Trustees and be there that day. And I had tears in my eyes, as I think we all did. And but the point is, I came at a time when this school was facing real challenges financially in the middle of the 2008 recession. We were trying to get the Davidson Trust up and running. And we had to make some tough decisions. And I just will never forget how this college pulled together as a community to make it through those days. We committed to each other that the one thing that we would be certain of is that our students would get the same education in the middle of the recession as they might have gotten in a boom time. That the only way maybe they would know about a recession is if they read it in the newspaper, because we didn't want them to experience it. And I think we were able to do that. And the second thing we committed to as a community was we weren't going to lay anybody off. No matter how bad it got, we were a family and we were going to stick together. And I think that is one of the enduring values of this place, is that it is a community of people who care about each other. I was fortunate to see it again, I think, in a particularly unusual way, which maybe we can talk some more about later, where athletics brought us together as a community. And the beauty of seeing alumni bond with students as if they were colleagues and even like they were classmates is really a phenomenal thing to see. But this place is special, and I think it is the honor code that grounds us in a life of integrity and honesty and leadership. And I remember when I was a judge, I did that for 18 years, and you see people facing real challenges in their life, whether they're charged with a crime or whether they're in the middle of some big business lawsuit or whatever it is, if they've suffered an injury and they're at a really important moment in their life. And seeing that taught me a lot about what it means to have humane instincts. And I got that from being here as a student. There's no doubt in my mind about that. It changed who I was as a person, who I am as a person. And I think this place does that for so many people. It's such a special place. And we have to nurture it. We have to be sure that, as alums and as people who've been a part of this community, no matter how they got here, we all have to stay together and really nurture this place, because it's something different and special.
I agree with that. So let's open it up for a conversation about leadership. And John, I want to pull out this book edited by Clark G. Ross. Is Clark G. Ross here? He was here.
He was here earlier.
Okay, all right. Clark G. Ross. But I kept it because I helped with the Dean Russ program conference on world hunger in 1985. And I have in the book, it's like my yearbook, I have notations from Clark Ross, John Kuykendall, Charlie Ratliff, may he rest in peace, Lou Ortmeyer, and Jack Perry, may he rest in peace, and Bob Williams. And these are role models for me. You were a mentor and a role model, and I try to lead in a way that is consistent with John Kuykendall and the kind of
Bad way to go.
WW JKD. What would John Kuykendall do? But I wondered if we might just reflect a little bit on how you thought about leadership of this place, where it's of a scale where we can know students and faculty and staff. But it's not so small that we're actually a literal family, or we can't get the whole student body and faculty and staff in any building except Belk Arena, which we try to do a few times per season. But how did you think about leadership as unique? And you've had different careers, different fields. Just wonder. Jump in, Bob.
That is a terrific question, and
thank you.
And I think you should be the first one to answer it.
Thank you, Bobby.
We're watching and very attentive.
Yes, we're listening.
Well,
I mean, seriously, you have done a remarkable job. I say this with admiration and respect.
Well, thank you. Checks in the mail. I love this place. When I was thinking about graduate school and thinking about my career, the best advice I got at Davidson, and then by Tommy Langford, who was a Davidson alum, I believe class of 51. He was my advisor at Duke Divinity School, my work at Harvard. My best advisors, my closest advisor said, get the broadest education possible, because everything in your PhD will drive you to narrowness, but to address issues that we're going to face in higher ed and in society requires broad thinking. It was a liberal arts argument, and write your dissertation not as a dissertation, but as a book. That's broad speaking. But about that time, I met with Craig Dykstra, Vice President at Lilly Endowment, and he said, well, what kind of career could you imagine? And I said, well, I'd like to be a teacher, and I'd like to teach in a program that had an application, applied liberal arts. But I also have thought about being a college president. And he said, well, what kind of example do you have? And I said, well, this guy, John Kuykendall. So for me, this is a dream job. It's back in my alma mater. I thought I worked hard at Emory and at Colgate to be at a place where I walked past Phi Halls 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. Okay, 40. And later, and to see this alumni base so committed to what they do, one of the most engaged in the country, I'm one of those folks. But for me to get to do that here feels like we're doing something really special, and we have the resources of people, a campus, alumni, an admissions pipeline, and our financial resources. We can do stuff. And for me, the library renovation, and then especially now this Martin Institute for Public Good allows us to make a real difference. And for me, that statement of purpose is a big deal, and it drives me every day. And when I see where our alums are, it makes me proud. We were able to have Senator Tillis and Senator Klobuchar on this stage in October because we had no red tape or difficulty. The whole college was like, yeah, let's make that happen, and we did. And so I want to continue to make us nimble into the future, and I'm just so excited by the people. And so Davidson is about the people. They even showed up to hear 5 presidents talk tonight, which is amazing. How about you, Bobby? Back to you.
I will not pretend to be half as eloquent as you. I would say just 4 or 5 little statements. I have never had a job where I worked harder or enjoyed it more. And most importantly, I've never had an opportunity, and by the way, this job was a gift. One doesn't earn it, just privileged to be here. But the fact of the matter is, when I left here, I took away a lot more than I brought in and gave. This is a place where, whether you're talking about students, faculty, alumni, staff, parents, and everybody it's of a piece. I don't describe it as well, but it is of a piece. People are all drawn together by that same thing. One special word about the faculty, because I wasn't always as good with the faculty as I probably should have been, but I will say that every time I stuck my foot in my mouth, there was always a faculty member there to get the Cordovan shoe polish off my teeth. No fooling. It was just, this place is you lead. Yes, you lead. You're looked to for decisions, and sometimes hard decisions, sometimes painful decisions. But the fact of the matter is that you can count on every one of those entities around you is going to, if we are who we say we are, you're going to get support. This place is amazing.
The name of the game is trust, and it's just endemic to the place. And that, I think, is one reason we have such a loyal alumni body, too, because, you tell somebody you went to Davidson, we may have had a bad apple now and again, but you say you went to Davidson, they trust you. They really do.
Just remember what Will Terry said.
Yeah, but you'll know all of them.
He said, someone once said to Will, oh, Davidson people are so wonderful. I feel so lucky every time I get to work with one. It seems like every single Davidson person I've met is just amazing. And Will, if you knew Will, said, well, then you haven't met them all. But it's true. I mean, I do think trust is important. And, Will loved this place more than anybody I've ever known, and was an extraordinarily generous human being. But I think Davidson helped me understand that leadership, especially in a place like this, Davidson is a community. And in some sense, when you are lucky enough to have a job like this, your job is kind of to create a context where that community can kind of figure out what as a community we need to do in order to become the place we want to be. And so it's a lot of following, because when I was here, most of the good ideas that happened were not mine. So it's really creating a context where a community can be more hopeful about what we could achieve together than they are afraid about what they might lose. And that to me is Davidson makes that kind of leadership possible. I think our students do it every day. I think in some sense, creating that context together as a community where we're more hopeful than we are afraid is a really, it's a real privilege to be in a place where that kind of, that sense of shared leadership is possible. But I don't think I thought about leadership in that way before I came to Davidson.
Yeah, I have been blessed to lead a number of different institutions, and I think to be a leader, the most important thing you can do is listen to those with whom you work and who are part of your institution, because I think that's what Carol's really saying, is the best ideas come from other people. When I was here, I came from not an academic background, as I said earlier, but the faculty was amazing in how open they were to me, but also with their ideas and with things that we could do together to really make the institution a better place. And so I think leadership is about listening to others. It is about being willing to surround yourself with people that are better and brighter than you are. And that certainly was true with me. I had a great team, but I also was surrounded by an incredible faculty. And one of the things that Davidson does, I think, maybe better than anywhere else, is the faculty we bring here are committed to doing really one thing in an excellent way, and that is teaching students. That's why they come here. And that sets us apart. We're really blessed to have the faculty that we've had over the years, and they make a difference in people's lives every day. I used to say, when you're leading an institution like this, it's your job to try to go out and raise a little money to make it possible for the faculty to do what they do, because they're the ones that change lives.
I don't know if you all saw the article 2 weeks ago in The Atlantic, the subtitle being "Go to a Small College If You Can." The featured schools were Amherst College and Davidson College. And we didn't write that piece, but we could have, because it did a really nice job of capturing Davidson. It actually featured a couple of our students, Nina Worley and Connor Hines, and their spirit of respect and their spirit of, their actual disagreements on certain policy questions. So we're going to have them come up and arm wrestle now. But it really gave a great tribute to the kind of work we're doing, and it is about listening and learning from the experiences of people who are different than you are.
I think one of the things, when I think back about the decade we were fortunate to be here, I do sometimes think back of the ideas that came up that I didn't follow, how much more we could do here than sometimes the imagination doesn't allow you to pursue it. And things such as were announced today, I do wonder how many more of those are out there floating, waiting for us to grow even more into who we are.
Yeah, and they come from everywhere, right? I mean, I think that's the beauty of a place like Davidson, where creativity and imagination can be nurtured. I think that's when, Bobby, you started this with the sculpture garden and kind of creating this environment where your creativity is sparked simply by walking around the campus, because it's a beautiful place. You can see the buildings, how the buildings interact with the natural world here. There's beautiful art, some of it by our faculty, that you are surrounded by, and that the imagination is sparked by that, and you can see things in a new way. The frameworks of analysis that you bring to your everyday life can shift, and suddenly new possibilities are in front of you. And Davidson is a place where, as a student, we're inviting you, hey, follow that, see where that takes you, and we will all learn something, because, the older you are, I think sometimes our imaginations gets a little bit stunted, right? We think we've seen it all, and a lot of really important ideas come from young people. Young people lead the way in helping us become a better place. So I think this campus that you're working to continue to build out, and these beautiful spaces that we get to spend time in here, the art that surrounds us, invite that kind of creativity, and that in combination with trust and this community, I think, invites us all to be leaders, right? You can be a leader when you do the thing in front of you that needs to be done. And a lot of people don't do that, Davidson, if you walk around campus, there's no, I don't know if David's out there, but there's no trash. That's because everybody on campus picks it up. If it starts to fly away, you pick it up. And that's a little way of leading. You don't have to wait to have a big title. It's do the thing in front of you, I think.
Carol, I love that you you refer to the campus as our gallery and really expanded the outdoor sculpture garden and put art in so many different places. And I just wonder if you all have experience with these hands. I know many of you were there at the dedication, but that was both a part of the outdoor sculpture and art, but it was so much more. It was a commitment of the community to try to build community, to add to education and reconciliation, and to build bridges of trust with those descendants of enslaved and exploited persons. And I just wondered if you had some thoughts on that piece.
I think that was maybe my best day at Davidson, except when the soccer team got to the Final Four.
Yeah.
No, I really did. That was just the epitome of community to me. And friends in the African American community who were there really felt that this was a part of who they were in a wonderful way. It was just a very special day, and continues to be.
Well, and when an institution admits its mistakes, that's something a good leader does, actually, is if you make a mistake, you're willing to own up to it. And the college doing that and doing it in such a powerful way, I think is really clearly a statement of who we are, which we should all be proud of. I admire your leadership in a lot of ways, but that one and Carol's leadership with the commission that led to it it's made Davidson a better place and made our relationship with the community better.
Mm-hmm. It's not unusual that this conversation has been very positive, because this is a positive place. I wonder what things we might need to be wary of. Mm-hmm. Do we become complacent? Are there things that you have on the radar, because you're in the driver's seat right now, that about which you say we need to keep our eye on this or this or this?
Mm-hmm. I like having 4 wingmen. Look at this. This is pretty cool. I'm walking on eggshells a little bit with the political environment. We have really managed to live our values in recent years and stay under the radar in terms of poking any politicians from either party or trying to make statements that we can't back up or that are just provocative. We're focused on that same one thing, which is educating undergraduates for lives of leadership and service. And that's our job. And so the centrality of freedom of expression is very important, and I've doubled down on that. The commission of 6 colleagues that you, faculty, alums, and students that you put together to write Davidson's commitment to freedom of expression was very important. And thank you for leaving it to me to take it to the faculty and the board. But we had good appreciate that. We had good conversations, and now that hangs in the heart of chambers across from the signatures to the honor code. It's very important that we have every student and every alum feel that this and understand that this is their college, and people are going to lead and serve in different ways. And we also need to be able respectfully to disagree. So I don't envy my colleagues who've had to speak on behalf of higher education in unfriendly settings, like hearings that don't feel like real hearings. I believe that we have work to do to defend, and actually don't like the word defend, to proactively state the value of what we're doing by shining the light on our students and our alums. And that's the work we have to do. There's no doubt that the cost of higher education is rising, and it's a lot for many families. I think our number one response to that is to have a high quality education and maintain a 92% graduation rate. That's the same for students who are Pell eligible, or international students, or students of color, or white students. Scholar athletes are slightly higher, actually, but to make sure everybody's doing that work and that their degree means something, but then also to make it affordable and accessible. But I worry about the cost moving and demand shifting. It's one of the reasons we try to have a presence in all parts of the country and world. So those are some of the things I think about. I also believe we're in a very strong position with all of our resources, as I mentioned.
Well, and I think that the Davidson Trust is going to be even more important because, as we know by looking at the demographics, there are going to be fewer and fewer 18-year-olds that are going to graduate from high school and be coming to college. So the competition, frankly, for students is going to be stepped up significantly in the next few years. And I think having the Davidson Trust and being able to bring students here without having to face loans and face the debt that many students have to face will give this place a real advantage. And I think the Institute, the Martin Institute, is going to do that same kind of thing because it will attract students to an environment in which they do feel free to speak and they feel free to be who they are. And I think that's the kind of place, that's the kind of community that will allow us to survive almost anything that comes at us.
I think it's also the new Martin Institute and the incredible team that, and our students that will build that out and populate the great programs that you announced today, have an opportunity to really shift public debate on the issues that most divide Americans now. And if you've participated in these conversations, they don't go anywhere, right? And they're stultifyingly boring because the positions are already mapped out and we just speak them at each other. And there's a better way to have a conversation, and through deliberative citizenship, the initiative here, and through thinking about, almost changing the vocabulary that we use, not using the words that have become tired and weapons, but using other words to try to figure out how we can forge a common language to have these conversations. That's what the Institute can do. It can do that through all the programs that Doug talked about this morning. It can do that by the way that it gives students the opportunity to develop the capacity to have that kind of conversation. And it can do that through policy work that Chris Marzicano has already started that actually shifts how we talk about divisive issues so that we have a common vocabulary. We mean the same thing when we use the same words, and new paths forward can become evident. So the work of the Institute is really a public-facing one in some ways for me. Yes, incredible experience for students, but our students are super smart, and the policy ideas that they will come up with there have the potential to help heal the country. And that's so exciting for me to listen to those programs today and the idea behind the Institute, and just boundless gratitude to the Martin family and everyone else who made it, and you for making that possible.
Doug, two things about the Martin Institute that really inspire me, which is a kind of a leitmotif in Davidson that we don't talk about very much. One of them, I would perhaps say humility, except that we once went for a bond issue here, and one of the people who was investigating us says, if I ever hear any more about Davidson's humility, I'm going to throw up. So let's say modesty.
Okay.
Modesty is a better word for that. And the other thing, which is, I think, inherent in Davidson, at least from my dad's generation right on through this current generation, is a sense of humor and a capacity to laugh at ourselves and to laugh at circumstances in ways that don't demean them in any way, but say, hey, look, there's a lightness to this too.
You got to find the joy.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You can't control the context you're in. We have no control over the context that we're in. What we can control is how we respond. And, we saw that in COVID, and, the North Star in COVID was that primary purpose. How do we do this now? We didn't wish for a global pandemic, and we can't change it. But here's what we do. We assist students in developing humane instincts and disciplined and creative minds for lives of leadership and service. How do we do that now?
Well, if you look around, I first would like to take a moment to acknowledge Adrian Carpenter and the archives team, the events and projects team, events and programs team for this amazing set. This is Davidsoniana right in front of you. And I'm not talking about the presidents, I'm talking about all of the faces behind. But you'll see a John Kuykendall bobblehead. You'll see a Stephen Curry Davidson College graduate bobblehead. You'll see, of course, the Doug mug. You'll see my baseball hat from It's the Gamer from the 1986-87 season. You'll see it's in quite untouched condition with the one at bat. But I do think our ability to have fun in the work and to have a sense of humor on campus is a key part. So tell us a joke, Tom.
Yeah, okay. I have a long list of them I can come up with. No, I want to change to something else for a second, because I did see the Steph Curry interchange sign back there, which...
Thank you, by the way, for that idea.
That's not why I raised it. I raised it because Steph was a student when I was here, and watching him grow was an amazing thing, but when I look back at it. And I give huge credit to Coach Bob McKillop, for the way he interacted, not just with Steph, but with every player he ever had. And he's passed that along to Matt, I think. But Bob, he was like you would hope every Davidson faculty member is. And that is, he was dedicated to teaching young men how to become and live lives of leadership and service. And I think when you see Steph Curry talk on TV now, or you see him do anything with his foundation or whatever, you can see Davidson right through him, and he gives us a lot of credit for it, but you can see it. He grew like virtually every other student that comes here grew. And I think that says an awful lot about who we are, and he's a great representative for us, but he experienced the same thing these students that are here tonight experience, and they can lead the same kind of leadership and service life that he leads.
Well, thanks to you and the board in 2008 to rally and get our fan base and our alumni base there to Detroit.
By the way.
Yeah, and the whole country.
But that was the trustees again.
Yeah.
I mean, I was walking down the street in New York and got a call from John McCartney, and he said, we've been talking among the trustees. We want to send all the students who want to go to Detroit.
This was in the context of the game.
Yeah.
Not just generally. Send it to Detroit.
I think there was a game that weekend. I'm not certain, but so I'm sitting there and I say, wait, this is like next week. How are we going to send all these students to, we don't have hotel rooms, we don't have tickets, we don't have buses, And it was our staff here who, took the lead. Wendy was on the phone all night long trying to find buses. That was our hardest thing. But, the trustees were just incredible about supporting that and paying for the hotel rooms and the tickets and the buses and everything. So, that was on them. But it was a moment in Davidson's history in which I think there was a bonding that took place in our community that we'll always remember. It was just special.
Really
it
special.
really was special.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about athletics, and that was a moment where athletics, specifically in that case the men's basketball team, and their success in March Madness brought the community together. Other experiences you've had, we put a fair amount of resources and time into being a Division I athletics program in a multi-bid conference. 26% of our students are Division I athletes. Is it worth it?
Well, I think
The answer is yes, but go on.
I went to the University of Chicago. I did not come to Davidson to be the sports president. But I think when you see, I did play sports, we play sports at Davidson because it has educational value, and our coaches are educators. And there are skills and opportunities and talents that get developed through playing sports at the highest level of competition that can get developed in other ways, many other ways at Davidson. But for some students, this is the way, right? And you need coaches who think of themselves as educators. You need students who are students first, and who understand that for most of them, their career is not going to be in their sport. They're going to be doctors or lawyers or researchers or policymakers. So they want the Davidson education, and they want to play their sport at the highest level of competition. Absolutely. And that combination, the kind of being able to offer that to the percentage of students for whom that's the best way, that's the best holistic education for that student, I mean, Davidson does it as well as anyone in the country, if not better. And, you know, is that sustainable over the long term? Is that a view of athletics? Athletics done right, as Chris Clooney likes to say. Is that a view of athletics that we can sustain? Who knows? But it is a powerful thing at Davidson. And I became invested in just making sure that we were giving our student athletes in the same way we want to give our actors and our musicians the best place to perform and the best opportunities to excel and grow. We wanted to make sure that our student athletes had the opportunity to win. And you know, Davidson doesn't do anything badly. We're not going to do that badly. So that took the right coaches, which we had here in Coach McKillop, this incredible example, and we have in other sports now, and it takes an amazing athletic director, and we have that now, and we had that in Jim Murphy.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, when USA Today had an article about Davidson athletics, and the title of the article was Athletics Done Right. And I think that's going to be, it has been the key in the past. We've done it the right way, and I think that'll be the key for the future. You know, whatever the rules are, we got to keep the eye on the ball, which is about educating students, including our student athletes. And as long as we do that and do it in the right way, I don't think we have to worry about where we are, what plays out, what the rules are. We just keep doing the right thing. And I think Dave's going to be really proud of the way we do athletics. And, you know, as you point out, there's a huge percentage of the student body that plays Division I sports, right? And I think one of the great things about being in the job here was being able to support them, go to the women's volleyball games and basketball games and soccer and all the different sports, and watch the students that you see walking the halls and in the classroom on the field, doing what they love. And so we need to continue to give that opportunity.
Let me express my tremendous gratitude to each of you for being here, for what you've done for Davidson College over the years, for gathering tonight and sharing some insights. It was enjoyable. I don't think any of us take ourselves too seriously, but this is, we're doing serious work at Davidson College of, you know, educating, cultivating humane instincts and discipline and creative minds, or lives of leadership and service, something like that. And I'm so motivated by the examples that you all created, and I just want to express my gratitude to you. We're at a great moment for Davidson College. We have more work to do. I love, John, that you said we mean to get better, and that is our intention to move forward. We're part of a tradition that's reformed and always reforming. We know that the environment is changing, the context around us, and we can't control that, but we can respond, and we can prepare people to go out and change the world in their fields. And so I want to say thanks to all of you for being here. We've got lots of great work to do, educational work as a community, and I hope you're proud of our humility and proud of our college. Thank you all. Please join me in thanking this group.